if you ban us, we won't come. You know, guys, right now, what's happening globally is so mind boggling. I don't even know where to begin. But right now, the news is that Trump has expanded the country ban list to over 75 countries globally. I can't believe what I'm seeing. And many of the countries that's on the list are not the ones that you would expect. In fact, there were a few NATO allies on the list. So it's amazing. I want you guys to check out these clips. I'm going to come back later toward the end and give my thoughts and my observations about what I'm seeing. And just remember, because we ban them, they surely can ban us.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 14th. Alexandra Lopez, immigration attorney here. And there are reports this morning that the Trump administration is expanding the visa ban to 75 countries as of January 21st. This is a sweeping freeze on visa processing. And there are some surprising countries on this list, including Brazil and Colombia in the Americas, which traditionally have been regional partners. It's definitely a significant shift in travel policy. Nigeria is on the ban. This is Africa's largest economy. Certainly a major source of business and student visas, professionals coming into the U.S., students coming to do their graduate or undergraduate in the U.S. So this is a massive disruption to educational and business exchange. The Philippines is on the list. This is a key military ally in Asia, so this inclusion is notable, kind of given the long-standing historical ties and security ties between these countries. Bahamas and Antigua is on the list, which it's just a popular tourist destination and usually is not included in kind of these diplomatic frictions. Russia, Belarus, Albania, Armenia, Bosnia, Zimbabwe. So some surprising names for the visa ban. Why are these countries included? Well, according to the State Department, the visa ban has expanded beyond just concerns about terrorism. Now it's public charge concerns that applicants who are deemed likely to rely on government assistance are going to be subject to the visa ban. High overstay rates. So some countries such as Chad and Burma were cited specifically for high overstay rates. And third, repatriation refusal. So traditionally some countries like Iran or Russia, China in some cases, have refused to accept back their nationals after deportation. So we are unable to repatriate them. And so countries that refuse to take back their citizens, some of those are also included on this list. I suspect that there will be litigation about this visa ban. It is set to take effect January 21st and applies to immigrant and non-immigrant visas alike.
These are the countries where U.S. citizens are banned from visiting. If you visit the country at the end, it would be a disaster. At number 5, it's Eritrea. You need special permission from their government to enter, and it's almost never given. Even if you get in, there's not much help if anything goes wrong. At number 4, it's Venezuela. Getting a visa is super hard. There's no embassy in the U.S., and travel is risky due to crime and protests. Coming in at number 3, it's Cuba. Tourism is not allowed. You can only go for family visits or other approved reasons. Even then, it's strict. At number 2, we got Iran. You must join a guided tour to visit. The U.S. warns about people being arrested here without reason. Finally, at number 1, there is a total ban here since 2017. Only rare special cases are allowed, and it's extremely risky. It's North Korea.
Listen, a lot of you are getting what you asked for, which was basically for other countries to start banning U.S. citizens, just as Trump is banning citizens from entering his country. Well, let's see America. So far, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, all West African countries have completely banned U.S. citizens from entering their countries, citing only the U.S. ban on their citizens. I mean, we could have seen this coming. These three are trying to disassociate from the West anyways. If you know, you know. Chad, a North Central African nation, has also stopped issuing visas to U.S. citizens back in June, with an exception for U.S. officials. Namibia also placed a restricted ban on U.S. citizens, requiring that they obtain a visa before entering. Guys, even Brazil, which is not on Trump's ban list, they have imposed stricter visa policies on U.S. citizens, even requiring that U.S. citizens show $2,000 in their bank accounts prior to being allowed entry into Brazil. Do y'all believe that more countries should be working to impose the bans on U.S. citizens? What if the Caribbean islands join the bandwagon? I personally don't think that they ever can, due to their heavy reliance on tourism. But what are y'all thoughts on this?
Unpopular opinion as an American, but if the United States government is banning people from certain countries from coming into the United States at all, no matter what, then those countries have the full right and absolutely should reciprocally ban American citizens from entering their countries, which is exactly what the country of Niger did this week when they issued a reciprocal and complete ban on visas for U.S. nationals and indefinitely banned U.S. nationals from entering Niger in response to Trump banning citizens of Niger from coming to the United States. And I get it, you don't care. You picked Fort Lauderdale this year over Niamey for your vacation, but it's actually quite significant. And I'm not defending the junta government of Niger, but this is part of a broader movement and willingness of African states to demand mutual respect rather than bow to unilateral pressure from the United States government. You saw this earlier this year. The government of Chad announced that they wouldn't be issuing new visas for U.S. citizens after the U.S. government announced the same. And the government of Mali announced that U.S. citizens would have to post a $10,000 bond before visiting after the U.S. government required the same of their citizens. This isn't going to have a whole lot of impact on either economy, but symbolically this shows a major move away from an asymmetric relationship with Western colonial powers.
You are not going to believe what the hell I'm about to say, but if you are from any one of these countries, these 75 different countries, you have now been banned from the United States effectively overnight. And it's all because of Marco Rubio. Now, you do not understand just how many people this will affect. This is a very broad policy affecting nearly 40% of all countries worldwide. That's 40% of the world completely blocked out from the United States. Now, by the end of this video, you are going to absolutely despise this man, as the US State Department has now officially announced a suspension of all immigrant visa processing to all citizens of these 75 different countries. And this all starts January 21st in just a few days. Now, this was led by Marco Rubio, and it's a massive expansion of immigration policy aimed at tightening the legal entry into the United States, as if it wasn't already stringent enough. Now, if you're from any one of these countries, you can no longer pursue permanent status in the United States, regardless if you have family, friends, or even a job over there. And this is how it's going to be until this policy is changed. But that is not going to be anytime soon, as the Trump administration has made this decision indefinite.
Two countries have just now announced travel bans on U.S. citizens in direct response to Trump's new travel ban. Earlier this month, Trump expanded visa restrictions on 39 countries, with full and partial bans set to take effect January 1st, 2026. The White House says it's about security, but now other countries are responding with one word: reciprocity. Mali and Burkina Faso have both confirmed they're banning Americans from entering their countries, saying U.S. citizens will now face the same restrictions their citizens face trying to enter the United States. Mali's foreign ministry made it explicit: if their citizens are restricted, Americans will be too. Burkina Faso echoed the same reasoning. And they're not alone. Niger has gone even further, announcing a permanent ban on visas and entry for all U.S. nationals. Chad also suspended visas for Americans earlier this year after landing on an earlier U.S. ban list. So while the administration frames this as protecting Americans, the real-world results is Americans losing access abroad, country by country, and January 1st is just the beginning.
I can already hear some of you saying, who the hell cares about going to Burkina Faso? I don't care about going to Chad or Niger. I can hear it already. But you know what? Let me just tell you this. This is just the beginning. You see, what's happening right now is the world is turning its back on America. For many, many, many decades, even centuries, many people were fond of America. Now, obviously, I'm not speaking of the whole world because, quite frankly, the Middle East have Certain countries in the Middle East has never been fond of America due to our happenings there. But to say the least, many people around the world, they love America. They love us for our culture. They love us for our fashion in some sense, especially when it comes to Black American culture. They love us for our Hollywood and movie scene, our comedies, different entertainment, forms of entertainment, that is. And now a lot of these countries, they don't care about that anymore. What matters more to them is their pride, right? They're not going to let a foreign president dictate how they live their lives. Now, obviously, you do have a few people in other countries who are weeping and crying over the fact that they cannot enter the United States anymore. Let me give you guys a word of advice. Many of you that are on this list that Trump put together so eloquently, many of you come from countries that are having a lot of political instability, a lot of corruption, and whatever have you. Take Trump's actions as a lesson, not as a punishment. What I mean by that is, instead of worrying about getting visas to come to the States and getting a degree and going to college and so on, use this opportunity to do one of two things. Number one, fix your own homeland, your own country. Try to get out there and be politically active and tell them what you feel and show them how you're going to work against them if you don't get what you need to get. Number two, if you don't want to do that, and in some countries I understand that you can't because the political engine is just too powerful for some populations, depending on the country's regime and what's set up, leave the country and go to another country that would be respectful and deserving of your talents and your education and your background and will respect you more as a person. I'm a Black American. I'm not an African American. That's a difference, in my opinion. There's a big difference because my family, for many generations, belonged to the United States. They were there when the United States were formed. I grew up in America. I grew up in New York. And I'll be honest with you, what I'm seeing right now is appalling, to say the least. But I have always faced all kinds of hardships due to the skin that I live in. And I don't want to make this video racial in any sense. I don't want to make it about race. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you come from a country like the countries on this list, because let's keep it real. Let's just keep it real. For my white viewers, for my Black viewers, for viewers all around the world, no matter what shade or color or whatever, you have to admit the majority, at least 80%, okay, of the countries on this list that Trump put together are either Black or brown countries. Majority of them. Now you have countries such as Georgia and Albania, and I think Russia was on the list. These are typically white, quote unquote, countries because what is white? White is anything that's not Black, according to the United States. So majority of those countries are not what you would consider to be Black or brown countries. But the reason why they're on the list is because there are either sanctions against them or historically they are Baltic countries that had succeeded from the Soviet Union or from communist control. And, even Cuba's on the list, and that's mostly predominantly a Latin country, but they are communistic. So in that sense, the US bans them completely. But then majority of these countries that are on the list are brown or Black countries. A lot of them were African countries. Some of them were countries based in Asia, like Thailand and so on. And people say that Thai people are generally the Black Asians, due to their facial features and their skin colors often. And, you had a lot of countries in Latin America that were banned. I mean, Brazil. Do you know how many Brazilians come to America and work in IT? And they contribute to the American economy and they pay taxes legally? Do you know how many do? That's a lot of them. Not every Brazilian is a criminal, okay? A lot of them contribute. And then you also had other countries on the list as well, like Colombia. Now, I know that Colombia gets a bad rap because of the drug trades and the cartels at one point, but you do have a lot of hardworking Colombians too who try to come to America for a better way of life. And unfortunately, They just can't do it anymore. They don't have the ability to do it anymore because now they're on the list. What is the end goal? What is the agenda for Trump putting together this list? I want to check this reality here. I want to check this reality. I don't know how to approach this or how I'm going to say this, but I'm going to wear the hat of me being a Black American, and then I'm going to wear the hat of me being more of a politician. Let's start with the Black American point of view, okay? Because a lot of them are Black and brown countries, and because Trump has a history of pretty much slandering those countries in the past, um, whether you agree with Trump or not, okay, that's a whole nother video. I believe that they're trying to rinse the United States population of blackness and brownness due to the decrease in the white population. I had a video on this much earlier in the inception of this channel. It's called, I think it's called White Birth Rate. So check it out on my channel. It's very interesting data that I dug for and found, and it's very enlightening what's happening. Unfortunately, it's happening because any group's birth rates decreasing is a sad story. Okay, but obviously there could be some motives of the GOP of limiting the amount of Black and brown people coming into the country in order to preserve whiteness. And again, it may not be that elaborate of a scheme. It may not be. It may not be that deep. It could just be also that they don't want so many migrants coming in. But you know what's awkward, guys? My eyes may be failing me, but I did not see China on the list. I did not see certain European countries on the list, predominantly Western and Central European. That may change in the future if Trump doesn't get his way with Greenland. But so far, I have not seen them on the list. But I think the biggest one was China. China was not on that list. Why? Maybe because the U.S. is still heavily dependent upon China for consumer goods. That could be one reason. But considering that, there are a lot of Chinese migrants coming into the States. In fact, some of them even crossed the Mexican border to get into the States some time ago. Not all of them come legally, and not all of them come illegally. But there is a big illegal population in the US, and they were not put on a list. So that goes to show you it's not just about what him doing what he feels is right. Sometimes it's about economics. For some, it may be about race. It could be about different factors. Now, with that being said, let's turn the table a little bit of politics. Yes, I'm a politician and I'm banning all these people coming into the country, okay? Because I think this is the right thing to do to make America great again. Okay, fair enough, fair argument, okay? What do you think these people are going to do or these countries will do to retaliate? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to start banning us. It's already happening. It's happening in quite a few African countries, in fact. I would have never expected that the African countries would be the first to ban America like that. But a lot of them, like Burkina Faso, like Chad, like Niger, I even heard that Ghana is on. It may have already happened, but Ghana is considering banning U.S. citizens. And unfortunately, there is a huge Black American population in Ghana. So what's going to happen to them? You know, all these African countries are tossing America aside, and they're allowing Chinese and Russian exports to come in. Okay, that's what they're allowing. They're allowing the military to come in. They're allowing Chinese and Russian expats to come in as exports and resources to help build up the continent. That's what they're allowing right now. And whether you think it's a good idea or not, that doesn't matter for this video. We can discuss this later. Drop your comment if you want a video talking about how the Chinese and Russians are either a potential ally or a rival or detriment to the African continent. But if you look at across the world, on the list, you also had Eastern European countries such as Georgia, Russia. There were a few others, Albania as a Baltic nation. You had them on the list as well. And I'll tell you, these countries they don't really do anything against the United States. Neither do the African countries. They don't really tamper with U.S. affairs. So it's really awkward to see them on the list. But I think the only reason why they're on the list is because of past Soviet Union ties as well as communist ties. That's why I think they're on the list. And as the GOP says, they despise communism. That's like one of their main talking points, how much they despise communism. So it's interesting to see that. Now, moving to South America and Latin America in general, a lot of these countries are being banned as well. I say that to say this, okay? Because all these countries are being banned by the United States of America, what do you think is going to happen to us when we go to those countries? I would say this as a word of caution for the Americans living in any of the countries on this list: start preparing to leave. Because if they ban you, you're going to have to do an immediate exit from the country in most cases. There may be some provisions where they will allow you to stay if you have a residency permit and so on, and then you'll be safe. But still, I wouldn't trust it because they can flip the script any day on you and tell you, all right, get the heck out now. We don't want you here anymore because your president sucks. And I'm not saying he sucks myself. I'm saying that would be their perspective. I try to take an unbiased view. I'd like to call out what reality is, right? And to be honest, if you really want to know my opinion, there are some things that I like about Trump, and there are some things I dislike about Trump. So therefore, I can't say I'm a Trump supporter, no, nor am I a Trump hater. Okay, I just typically like to call out things that I feel are not right versus things that I think he's doing well, right? So, yeah, I don't know how to feel about this one. I don't know how this one is going to shape up for us in the next few. Here's what I don't want to happen. I'll leave you guys with this. You have the whole Greenland thing happening right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and people don't really know what to expect with Greenland. Here's what I don't want to happen, okay? I'm going to create a hypothetical scenario, and Trump, if you're listening to this, please don't listen to me. I'm just speaking about hypotheticals right now, just hypotheticals. Let's say, for example, the EU does not agree to giving Trump Greenland, which is going to be the most likely the case, right? I don't see them succeeding that to Trump, right? And Trump then says, you know what? Tariffs are not working on you. I went from 10 to 25%. This is not working on you. You still don't want to give up Greenland. You know what, you EU, screw you. I'm going to start banning your countries from entering the United States. If he does that, folks, mark my words, that will destroy us because there are so many of us that are living in the European Union right now. And it will be super scary if he does something like that. It will be super scary because now, knowing the EU, they will immediately and swiftly implement very bureaucratic, to say the least, laws that can hurt Americans' residency statuses in the EU. And then many Americans will be forced to leave the EU to return back to the States or to go elsewhere where they are wanted. So again, that is like the nightmare scenario for many Americans because most of the Americans who leave the United States, they usually show up in the EU or in Asia, but mostly in EU because of the cultural similarities and in some cases the language, especially English language, is more widely spoken in Western and Central Europe versus Eastern Europe and so on. So it's an easier transition to move from America to the EU. So if something like that were to happen, where Trump just says, you know what, let's just ban most of the EU countries. I think there are 28 of them, if not 26 or 28. Let's just ban all of them, which is unlikely but could happen. Americans will be scrambling. And that would cause a huge, huge problem within NATO. So let's see what happens, guys, with this ban and stuff. I don't think this is going to end up well for America in the long run. It's going to hurt us economically, socially, and geopolitically. Guys, make sure you like this video if you love my content and show your boy some love. And YouTube thinks you'll like this video right here. Go ahead and give that a click, and I'll see you on the next one.